someone who has an interest in fictional animals that often have human-like characteristics. That's called anthropomorphic. And there are also some fictional animals that furries like that don't have human-like characteristics. So that's what a furry is. The furry fandom is the global community that is interested in that to varying degrees. I am barely interested in it. I like the art, I like the people, and that's basically where my interest ends. I have a persona, but it's not flushed out. I don't even have the reference sheet for it yet, but I did buy the adoptable, so I'm going to do that at some point. There was a furry YouTube channel that's been deprecated, so I'm not going to post to that anymore. The only reason that's still up is because there is content. There is not content, more like footage. There is footage on that channel that I just want to leave there. So this is my YouTube channel now. Obviously, I'm a bit more interested in talking about things from a Minnesota perspective, hence the title. And Minnesota has a furry group. It's called MN Furs, and while it isn't the whole state, it is the group that, how do I put this? It's the seat, the main group of the entire state, but it's not involved in running furry activities in the whole state. You have the Duluth Furs, there are Central Minnesota Furs trying to do stuff there. I'm sure there is a furry type thing happening in Moorhead as well, but you know, that's furry for you. You have, most states have the main group that represents the whole state. There are groups that represent the region, but they don't cover the same area. The representation and the people are not the same, and that's just how it is. Minnesota naturally has a furry group because the history of furry goes back to the 1970s, and Minnesota was one of the main states for it, and around the same time California also has a history of furry. So why am I even making this video? Because this is stuff from a Minnesota perspective. Well, I would talk about furry in general, but there are just some lessons from this fandom that could be applied broadly to everyday life. So furry has always been LGBT plus friendly, and that's a really important thing. But another important part about furry is it is predominantly white and male. So guess what kind of people really want to infiltrate it? So mostly white, mostly men, and you know, there's another group of mostly white, mostly men that want to infiltrate furry and use that to recruit into something horrible, and that is white supremacists, white fascists, just the whole white, the bad white people want to make furry they want to either take people from furry or infiltrate furry. They're really good at taking furries and trying to make furries a megaphone on Twitter, but here's the thing. In furry, white supremacists don't have any influence on anything because of the longer history and because of the conventions, and you know, if you have a group of white supremacists in your convention space trying to mess things up, that convention can't happen. The thing about furry conventions, including the one in Minnesota that was bound to happen eventually, is that you have to have a membership to get into the convention, and the furries running the convention are keeping track of you before you even set your foot in the door. If you have a history of drama on social media, or if you have a history of illegal activity, you just can't go to the convention. You are preemptively banned, or your membership won't be honored, is what they say. But, that's being banned. And, if you are a good person and you're not going to a convention to mess things up, you're just going there to have fun, it doesn't really matter what your beliefs are. Otherwise, you can go to the convention and have a good time. That's why the convention is there, to bring as many people in as possible. Even then, you can't let everyone in, otherwise things are going to be messed up, like they were in Seattle with Rainforest. That's how Rainforest got. That's how that convention imploded. They didn't have a real specific policy on how to let people in. And even when there was wrongdoing, they just didn't handle it. They just didn't. There was like a slap on the wrist. There were bans that were just hours within the convention, and this is not how you handle bad people. Furries understand how to do this. At Furry Migration, if you have white supremacist symbols and imagery, you're gonna be taken out by a volunteer security person, and the staff, they're gonna revoke your membership, and you will never be allowed to attend ever again. That's just how furries handle the situation. That's how furries handle bad opinions in their space. And that is their space, and they have to do what they can to keep that space because of the venue. You have to respect the wishes of the venue. And venues, you have the same Hyatt company that hosts Furry Migration also hosts CPAC, but even though those are like really different things, in the end, CPAC they have money, they can hire security, they can keep control of their group of people during the event in ways that furry conventions simply can't. Their solution to that is just, you can't come in, and our volunteers, people who are not getting paid at all, that are running the convention, will keep you out. And even then, if you try things like ghosting, other people will notice, and they're going to shame you for that. So, what does this mean in the rest of the world? What does this mean in real life? Before I even get to that, let's have a bit of a chat about, the internet. The furry website, furaffinity.net, had a light touch approach to try and encourage free speech and creativity. Then there was the Nazi furries, a faction of the fandom that has always been there. They were some benign underground thing until they weren't. They started spreading hate speech and feeling emboldened, so the Fur Affinity site decided, we can't have this anymore, this type of content cannot be posted here, and most other furry websites are doing the same thing. And part of the reason Fur Affinity is doing that is because of Weasel, which is another competitor that is even more strict on what you can and can't post, and also where it goes. With all of this in mind, real world situations. So, the furry fandom, a mostly white, mostly male, and not really straight whatsoever fandom, has kept fascists and white supremacists and white nationalists, the bad white people, at arm's length, and has done that consistently. There is the My Little Pony fandom where white supremacists infiltrated successfully, and the reason that happened was because it's a new fandom with a lot of new people and not a lot of experience handling this. That said, the lessons from the furry fandom should be applied to the My Little Pony fandom. It could still be done after the fact. And then there's, how do I put this? There is the real world. And what the real world can't really do is ban hate symbols everywhere for private everything. But if people wearing and doing things that are hateful, if people wearing hate symbols start doing hateful things, they absolutely need to be banned, and these bans need to be enforced. People need to know that if they are spreading hateful ideology, that it is bad and that there are consequences for doing that. This is why we have free speech to begin with. So, not just to have bad opinions, but to respond to bad opinions. And part of that response is telling people on your private property for your private event, you can't be here. That is itself an act of speech that is protected by private property rights. It's a bit different in government, and if the thing is, there is hate speech, but why we allow that hate speech is to know how people are hateful and what to do about them. Furries are doing something about it, and they're really successful at doing that. And also, furries are mostly white, mostly men. If you look at the 2020 election exit polls, that's not usually a progressive group of people. That said, if there is someone that is a white man and furry, you can somewhat easily assume that they are progressive. Well, they're way more progressive than white men who are not. So, those are the lessons from Furry and my Minnesota perspective on that, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.